Freaking looks like something out of Back to the Future.
Hello? McFly!
The VTR. This sucker is a whopper. With the atomizer installed, the battery installed, it comes out to a flippin' 13 ounces. This is the heaviest device by far that I've ever used. It's a good 3 ounces heavier than the DNA 20 phased box mod that I own. That blue big ass box mod that I always have in my videos. It's 3 ounces heavier than that. Like a freaking brick. I mean, I could do curls with this thing. So there's your screen. You got the toggle button right here that adjusts the power and the voltage. You press the center button on that toggle and it shows your resistance, 2.2 ohms. Then it shows your power, and you can switch it back and forth from voltage to power with this middle toggle. You just click on that button. If you want to adjust your power, you want to go down, it goes down to 3 watts all the way up to a good 15 watts. If you want to switch to voltage, you can adjust that from 3 volts all the way to 6 volts. It does not round robin either when you're either using the voltage or the wattage. Okay, you've got vent holes along the side, you've got vent holes at the base, and this is where your battery goes in right here. We'll go over that in a second. Here is your fire button. 3 clicks to turn it off. You'll see it says off. 3 clicks to turn it on. Nice clicky button too. Right here is where your battery comes out. If you pull the switch right here, the gravity will take over and pop right out. There you go. Insert it, nipple up. Pow! Locked and loaded. So basically it automatically turns it off once you take out the battery and then you reinsert it. But watch this. I'm going to turn it back on. Okay. And it did not reset my wattage setting. I set it back down to 9.5 watts. It stayed there. Pretty cool. As you can see, the atomizer that comes with it is the iClear 30. It's just like the original iClear, except it has a cartomizer type chamber with holes punched and a bunch of wicks stuffed in there. This thing vapes fantastic. We'll go over that in a second. It's got this little barrier right here. And I have dropped this a few times, not on concrete, but on a wood floor. Luckily, I did not scratch it up. I was walking around, I had stuff stacked up, you know, and I had this bad boy sitting at the top, and I guess I leaned this way and it slid off and fell on the ground. Flat on the ground, just like that, in that direction. It didn't really scratch it up. It didn't dent it. I mean, it took it like a champ. The device, it didn't even harm the device, you know, one bit. So that's a really cool feature to have. And this, it twists. And pretty much any other clear miser that I've used, something like the VV Nova or the Pro Tank. I got a Pro Tank 2 right here. I mean, it fits in that little barrier, in that little ring barrier. And then I screw it down. You can screw the spinning 510 connection one direction while you screw the device the other, and it tightens it completely. It also, you know, there's some resistance there. It still spins, but there's some resistance. We'll go over the spinning part in a moment. It fits pretty much any clear miser that I've used. The sucky part is that it doesn't fit like my RDAs or my RBA Genesis atomizers, but it does come with this adapter, and it is the largest adapter that I've ever seen. And how this works is you got your 510 connection down here, slide that right in the ring barrier, and you just screw that bad boy down. I like to hold that spinning 510 connection ring to tighten her up, okay? And then I'm going to screw in the atomizer I'm using. Pop my drip tip in there, and here is the beauty. This is what I love about this spinning 510 connection. You can twist it to your liking wherever you like your air hole. So if I'm vaping this way, like with most RDAs, I like my air hole facing the opposite direction of where I'm vaping, okay? Because I don't want juice. If I just put, drops in, I don't want juice leaking out of that airflow. And if I have it to where the air hole is facing me, it may drip out on me or all over my device. I don't want that. So I like this because I could set to where my air hole is facing. Okay, where my wick's facing. So if I'm using a Genesis atomizer, I could set it to where it's the wick's facing me, and it's just so convenient. And really good too. The VTR, it's definitely made of stainless steel, but it's also made of zinc, and I think that's why this device is so damn heavy. Zinc can be really heavy. It holds an 18650, and I've gotten a good 8 hours out of this device. Now, that's all depending on the setup you have, but it also depends on, if you're a chain vapor or a moderate vapor. I consider myself a moderate vapor. I can go an hour without a vape. I usually vape every 10 to 15 minutes, especially if I'm working by the computer. But yeah, 8 hours I get out of this thing, and that's with an 18650 2000 milliamp hour battery. The design on this device, I really am digging the design. It's like a charcoal chrome finish. It is a fingerprint magnet, but nevertheless, this thing is built like a tank. Okay, it's like I said, the heaviest device that I've ever used. It vapes up to 15 watts, and it's a legit 15 watts. I don't know if you saw in that preview video. This device sub-ohms, guys. You saw it in my preview. It's gonna vape 0.8 ohms at the maximum 15 watts, because this device does have a maximum of 15 watts, but it's a legit 15 watts, and that's the first device that I've ever used with, that vapes a legit 15 watts. Sub-ohm. A lot of these devices out there, claim that they've got a 6 amp limit and it's at 15 watts, but you can't go anything lower than 1.3, 1.4 ohms without having a low or a 9.9 or an E message or an F message. That sucks. But with this, it's the first device that does that. I had a 0.8 ohm coil vaping at 15 watts. I wrapped a 0.9, a 1 ohm coil, a 1.2 ohm coil, a 1.3 ohm coil. They all vape at 15 watts, and it's a legit 15 watts. No E messages. No F messages, no low load, none of that crap. Now, 0.8 ohms at 15 watts, that's vaping like what, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6 volts, somewhere around that ballpark. That's not a hard hit, but you're sub-ohming on a variable voltage, variable wattage device. Pretty freaking cool. I've got an iClear 30 on here, and I'm vaping at 9.5 watts. And I'll tell you what, flavor on this iClear 30 is fantastic. It really is good. It's actually, I'm starting to like the top coil clearmizers over the bottom coil, like the Pro Tanks, because the Pro Tanks, I know I'm getting off here, but the Pro Tanks, they gurgle too much and they leak too much. So many people are having issues with it. With this device and with something like the VV Nova, this is way better because it's more evolved. But with something like this device, it really is more consistent. I haven't gotten any dry hits since I've been vaping on it. And the vapor, it chucks the vapor. It's a 50-50 blend in here I have. The only bad thing about this iClear 30 is you can't freaking rebuild it because they have it set up to where it's soldered at the base. So you have to literally cut into it to pull it apart. That's freaking gay. They need to make these things to where you can rebuild them, because I'm not a big silica fan. I don't know, some of you guys out there don't like silica as well, but when you break it in, it's fine, but it's nothing like cotton. I want my cotton. I gotta have my cotton in here. One of these knuckle drip tips, I'm not too fond of them. You can unscrew it, pull it out, pop this drip tip in. Every drip tip that I've used in this iClear 30 has fit perfectly. That drip tip right there took this device, looks-wise, from great to freaking awesome. Sick as tits! I'm going to go in and try to think of a way to rebuild this thing if I can. it's going to be a big success. It only comes with a plastic tank, so it doesn't come in glass, which is a bummer if you like to use those juices that are prone to cracking tanks. So you've heard the pros. There's tons of pros. The cons. The dial in this device, it's kind of finicky. I mean, it doesn't, you have to turn it 2 or 3 times for it to read, for it to catch on, but it catches on every time. So they should make it next time, version 2, VTR maybe, they can make the dial smoother, okay? I didn't mention this before, but when you fire that button, if you have a fully charged battery, it's going to fire green. If you have a halfway charged battery, it's going to fire yellow. And if you have a close to dead battery, it's going to fire red when you fire it. I do get battery shakage. That's my battery clinking to the side. Yeah, see, that's battery. That's the battery shaking right there. Now, I've got to shake it pretty hard. If you're not a big fan of heavy devices, this is not the device for you. This thing is a whopper. I mean, I'm a dude, I'm a big dude, and I think this thing's heavy. So this is a great device for someone who does manual labor, who's out and about, who's outside, carrying their vaporizer with them. I mean, like I said, I've dropped this a few times already, and I don't even have a scratch in this thing. Didn't even put a dent in it. I mean, it's solid. Solid right there, buddy. The fire button is right here in the center, and I wish that the fire button was up here. If I'm using an RDA and I want to twist that air hole around, you know, sometimes that air hole, you know, gets twisted around and I want to adjust it. If I have that fire button up here, it'll be easier for me than having it down here and having to, you know, find it and fire it. It's not too much of a big deal for me though, but still, it's a con. The screen. Now the screen, it does tell you the resistance. It gives you a variable wattage option. It gives you a variable voltage option. I think that it should show the battery life. So that's another feature they should add on to it. But other than that, $120 for this device, I say it's worth it. Especially if you want something that's rugged, something that's tough, thick, heavy, and hits hard, and you can vape sub-ohms. That's a plus right there. Since I've had it, I've been vaping between 1.4 and 1.8 ohm with a microcoil, and I've even been enjoying it with this iClear 30. I enjoy this iClear 30 more than the Pro Tank 2. I have to emphasize this. Innokin, people like to rebuild their stuff. Let them do their thing. Let them rebuild it. Offer it with an option to take it apart and rebuild it. Okay? Below I'm going to have a link to where I bought this. I don't have that on hand. I apologize. I'll post it right here, actually. That way you can see it. I'll tell you what, I don't have any gurgle issues. I haven't had any gurgle issues with this device. I haven't had any dry hits with this device. No leaking with the iClear 30. With this Pro Tank, I'm having all sorts of issues, and I know people are having issues because I get hundreds of PMs every day about the Pro Tank and having issues with their stock coils, with their rebuilds, the leaking, gurgling. I mean, they need to re-engineer this coil if it's going to be bottom fed. If not, the top coil, it's just working. It really is. And I'm not having to tilt this iClear 30 one bit. I'm going to take one more hit. We'll wrap it up. All in all, the VTR, it's a win in my book. It does get an A. I wouldn't say it gets an A+ because there are a few cons that need to be addressed. But it gets an A. And it vapes like a freaking champ. It vapes sub-ohms. It kicks ass. And it's heavy as a freaking brick. This is Rip Trippers. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to comment below. And remember, smoking is dead, vaping is the future, and the future is now.